face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives. Good morning. Welcome to Cross Street Chapel's Sunday service. I'm grateful for those of you who joined us here in person, as well as potentially people who are online, though we seem to be having some audio difficulties, I believe. So my sincere apologies if all you see is moving off, and we may have to just end it early, not the service, in the broadcast early if we're not able to resolve this audio issue. But for those who can hear me, welcome, and I hope that whatever it is that has brought you into this space, be it a time for joy and celebration, for tears and sorrow, for a chance to hear a few words of wisdom, or connect with one another, or just to rest with the divine, whatever it is that has brought you into this space, I hope you'll find it as well as a warm community. And I know the latter is definitely true, as I've been with this community for nearly a decade now, and I know of its warmth and generosity. Today, amongst other things, is the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima, and so our service looks at the challenges that we face as humanity, acknowledges the continued threats and issues posed with our nuclear age. But to bring us into some time of worship are these words of Austin Channing Brown. I believe firmly that to practice love is to disrupt the status quo, which is masquerading as peace. I believe firmly that to practice love is to disrupt the status quo, which is masquerading as peace. So those peaceful elements, those convenient silences, perhaps when someone should speak up, for instance, may be what she is referring to. And our chalice lighting, of course, were the words of Lindsay Bates. But let us have a few words of our own as we sing our first hymn in the Green Book, number 174, A Church is a Living Fellowship by Frank Clabber, hymn number 174. Thank you, Aaron, as well. I forgot to mention as well that today is the first of two services where we will be sort of auditioning, and it's not to add any pressure to what is already, possibly a tradition. You enjoy the service as well, but it's a chance for us to hear Aaron, and you'll have in your printed order of worship just a few a page for you to sort of let us know your thoughts afterwards. Let us, though, at this point turn to a prayer with these words of Lynn Cox. This is then followed by our covenant, which is printed in your order of worship. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in the world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it. Blessed be. Amen. And please join with me now in reading our covenant. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Today's story begins with an act of environmental destruction with fly tipping, and specifically in a sort of foresty area. Someone decides that they don't need their bathtub anymore, so they bring it out to this spot in the forest, and they just lay it there. They don't think anyone's going to know about it, and that they can sort of get away, which is actually what happens. So I know that's a bit of a downer for the start of the story, but they're not needed at any more point, because this story is more about the bathtub than it is about the person who dropped it. And so in the forest, as nature is wont to do, it actually incorporates what it comes across. So it sees this bathtub, and the vines on the forest floor gradually creep up and take it over. There's dirt that accumulates, rain washes in, and the occasional seeds of the various fruits and fruits of nature fall into this bathtub. And so it develops its own little sort of ecosystem. It's particularly habitable by a number of insects. And these insects are gracious. They're actually grateful for the gift of this bathtub in the forest. And but one thing that they really have to make sure of is that when it rains, all the water is able to go through the drain. Because otherwise, if the plug in the bathtub is filled up, then the rainwater comes and it fills, and then the ants, the insects, they aren't ants, but these other insects, they know that if the water fills up too much, they will lose their land, they will drown. Well, someone else who happened to impossibly knew about this bathtub, maybe it was the same person, we don't know. Someone else has some items to get rid of, and amongst the things that they chuck into the forest is a watermelon. Now, I'm not going, this is a prop, and I'm going to, I know people are a bit worried about the hire. It's a new carpet, I'm aware of that. So this is really all that you'll see of the watermelon. I'm going to place it back here safely in the hopes that it doesn't roll off the shelf. Otherwise, I will have a lot to answer to Janet about. So they chuck this watermelon in, and amazingly, it doesn't split or burst. It just lands in the bathtub, and it rolls around until it finds itself directly over the plug. And like I say, all of these insects, they know that if the plug is covered up, when the rainwater comes, they will likely drown. So they try to figure out how they're going to get rid of this watermelon. What do you think they do? Anyone else? Maybe, possibly, they think about pushing it first. I should add, you're a very clever congregation. If anyone's heard those two answers, just excise it for the rest. So they try pushing it, but no, it's too heavy. Luckily, an ant comes by and says, I am amazed that you have this watermelon, this sort of gift upon the gift in this bathtub. I would love to take it with me. And all of these other insects who tried so hard to get rid of the watermelon didn't know what to do. So and so they say, these ants, you're absolutely crazy. This watermelon is massive compared to all of us. There's no way you can take it. And the ant is very much assured that it can take the watermelon away. They, thinking it's foolish, should say, well, okay, well, when do you want to collect the watermelon? And the ant says, well, I'll pick it up tomorrow. And they think, pick it up, yes, obviously. So they wait, and the next day, the ant, sure enough, the ant comes. But behind the ants are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other ants. And they come, and no, they don't try to push it, but they do, in fact, just nibble off a little bit. And when the insects see this, they first think this is quite foolish, because each ant, of course, can only take off a little bit of that watermelon. But as the ants keep coming and keep collecting bits of the watermelon, they do eventually see it sort of diminish and diminish and diminish until the threat of that plugful is removed. And the insects are safe, and the ants are well fed. You now have a chance to share your joys, your sorrows, your trials, as well as your triumphs. If you wish to light a candle, please come to the center to do so. If you have something to say, come to the microphone. So those who are listening online, those who are using the loop system may be able to hear you. If you are online, please type into the chat box and we will read your message out. And if you are, of course, invited to light a candle in silence, if you wish to remain seated, know that your presence here is enough. I'd like to light a candle of gratitude. I was here obviously last week, and I'm always refreshed and energized by having a bit of time off. I'm always grateful to be back. But a thank you for particularly for the birthday wishes, and it's a candle as well because on the 2nd was my sister-in-law's birthday, on the 3rd was my brother's birthday, and today is their anniversary.
This is a joint candle. Some of you might not be aware, but this week is International Pounds Week. So a celebration of celebrating all the people who make us laugh. And also this week, it's a, I guess you triumph. This is a trial. This week I've been back and forth between doctors and A&E and the pharmacy because my asthma has flared up quite severely. So this is like a candle for all the NHS workers who are severely understaffed and underappreciated, and for the people who are in A&E waiting for assistance.
Manchester has its Pride March at the end of this month, but our son Nick is in Leeds today, joining some work colleagues because today is Leeds Pride March, and so I hope he's having good weather. So this is a candle for all people who feel at risk because of their perceptions of their own self, their own gender.
All those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. So let us sing now our next hymn in the Purple Book, number 35, Find a Stillness, Transylvanian hymn translated by Carl Siebert, hymn number 35. Reading now is a poem by Peter Sampson, who's graciously agreed to read it. Today it's Hiroshima, 1984.
Just by way of a brief introduction, the poem is entitled Hiroshima or Hiroshima 1984. And in 1984, I was spending some time in Japan, first of all in Tokyo with members of the International Association for Religious Freedom, of which I've been a lifelong member. And then after that, we went to Hiroshima for the to celebrate or honor the Hiroshima Day in the Hiroshima Peace Park, which is what I explain in the poem. A mound of ashes, they said it was. All I saw was a beautifully rounded, grassy tumulus, a perfectly proportioned, closely mown barrow. It was a monument, a burial place, a grave, a vast urn. There had been no choice between burial and cremation, no time for choice, no thought that a choice had already been made for them by others. Never again, say the living crowds who gather at Hiroshima on the unwanted anniversary. 8 in the morning, the heat is already sweltering. The city's new broad streets are laid out in the sun, and tall buildings, specially constructed to wave with earthquakes, stand sentinel in the southern silence. At 8:30, they release a flutter of doves. They fly up into the sky, settling on trees, on telegraph wires, on the Atomic Bomb Museum in the Peace Park.
Let us turn now to a time of prayer with these words of William Sinkford, who wrote this prayer on the 70th anniversary of Hiroshima Day in 2015. Like most traumatic scars, the ones that are found in Hiroshima and Nagasaki are permanent, reminders of the terrible damage human beings can inflict. Similar scars can be found in the hearts and souls of people around the world who understand this terror. Scars of grief, sadness, fear, and even shame. None of these scars promise an end to war and devastation. Instead, they serve as a reminder of healing and renewal, of a return to life. Gracious God, Spirit of life and love, help us to see our scars, those we have created, those we are called to witness, and those we can soothe and heal. We are deeply grateful for the buds and blossoms that even the most scarred offer as a revelation to the world. And especially today, let us renew our commitment to peace, individually, collectively, and globally. To peace within, which calms our anxieties and fears. To peace between, which overcomes difference, animosity, and conflict. And to the great peace, beyond even our understanding. This is your gift, and which we attempt to be stewards of for the world. Amen. And so we now enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. We turn now to our next hymn in the Green Book, number 161, Linda Morrison's The Son of Hope Within, hymn number 161. Many churches and places of worship today will be marking the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima. Manchester, as an active member of Mayors for Peace, will hold its annual ceremony soon after the service, our service, in the Peace Gardens in Lincoln Square, and you're invited to attend. That starts at 12. I felt it appropriate today to begin by mentioning something. I was intending to place it here, but I ran out of time, so I'll make sure it's available for the tea and coffee. And that is, it is a wreath that we received, a wreath of origami cranes. It was a gift to the chapel from the Peace Crane Ministry of the First Congregational Church in Winter Park, Florida, and it was given to us in 2017 following the Manchester Arena bombing. We had not heard of them, nor had we requested it. Just one day, a package arrived with these beautiful paper cranes folded and brought together into a circle, along with a letter detailing the group's work. They fold these cranes and wreaths to send out to communities that are grieving. So our cranes are part of an ensemble stretching across the world. Because so in every corner there is grief and pain. But as well, knowing that the prayers that went into its construction were spoken as the paper was folded, as the box was taken to the post office, is a reminder that alongside tragedy, we are prepared to come together. We must come together to enfold people, all people, into our hearts. Origami, which is a practice that I love, can be replete with spirituality. With the introduction of paper from China and Japan's own innovations in the 9th century, folded paper began to be used in religious rituals at Shinto shrines. Nowadays, it has taken on a more secular fascination, with people folding animals, aircraft, and geometric shapes. The book that my family had when I was growing up, Robert Lang's The Complete Book of Origami, even included a design for a cuckoo clock, and one that actually, if you pull, it had a lever that if you pulled on it, the cuckoo came out. My skills never advanced such that I was able to construct it, but I did find the book online, and possibly in a few years' time, don't hasten to see it next week, but we will see. For me, the act of folding, that attempt to seek precision and following these instructions, all set origami up to be a spiritual practice, done simply for the sake of being done, with focus and intention. Though I acknowledge it's not for everyone, after we received the wreath, I thought it would be a moving exercise for the congregation as a whole to fold paper cranes, an endeavor that did not play out as well as I expected. And for those who were at that service, I'm sorry if I've triggered anyone or brought up any painful memories. It did not help as well, I'll admit, that the instructions that I had projected onto the wall were actually out of order. When thinking about the paper crane, however, I inevitably think of Sadako Sasaki. She was a child when the bomb fell in Hiroshima, aged only 2, and she survived and appeared to have no ill effects until she turned 12, at which point she was then diagnosed with leukemia. She learned from a friend about a folk tale that if you folded 1,000 paper cranes, your heart's desire would be granted. So she set about and, in fact, actually exceeded the challenge, though her illness ultimately took her life that year. The atomic age has brought consequences even further than the immediate leveling of a whole city. Several years ago, a plaque was unveiled at the cenotaph acknowledging the service men, primarily, who were affected by nuclear testing in the Bikini Atolls. Speaking to a grandson of a survivor, I came to comprehend that genetic changes, of course, and quite obviously, we sort of forget this, that genetic changes continue down the family line. So war has not just impacted those who were living 80 years ago, but will continue to do so through the generations. And there is an impact on the whole Earth. A study last year out of Louisiana State University suggested that the impact of nuclear war would shift the whole of Earth's climate, with some areas, such as the oceans, taking thousands of years to recover. Wendell Berry observed that we're living, it seems, in the culmination of a long warfare against human beings, other creatures, and the Earth itself. He draws a connection between the harm that we have wrought on the Earth, the wars we have fought, and the way in which we have fought them. For him, it is a straight line connecting all of these atrocities. This is a disheartening prospect. Suddenly, these cranes speak more of the pain inflicted on each other and on the Earth than they do at some aspiration of hope and eventual community. But still, amidst all of this pain, we must hope. We must hope as people hope. We must hope as May Sarton writes in Without the Violence. After a terrible and rending war, this land took on its fearful peace. We must hope as the Earth hopes. Walt Whitman, reflecting on the legacy of the American Civil War and connecting it to the compost of billions of premature corpses, acknowledges that the Earth recovers. Yet, behold, the grass covers the prairies, the bean bursts noiselessly through the mold in the garden, the delicate spear of the onion pierces upward, the apple buds cluster together on the apple branches. The resurrection of the wheat appears with the pale visage out of its graves. We often look to springtime as inspiration for renewal, for recovery from winter, for the lengthening of the days. But really, this must happen every day. Hope is not just idle wishing, it is active. It is a commitment, it is a choice. It's an optimism that renews itself each morning as the sun rises again. We cannot afford to wait until spring to bring hope to life. We must do so every morning. Both Sarton and Whitman illustrate the complexity of life, that we live with multitudes and contradictions. In her poem, Sarton argues that peace necessarily follows the violence, as the Earth's cataclysmic period early in its life led to a period of cooling. After, not before, she writes. Similarly, Whitman, in his poem, writes, "Now I am terrified of the Earth. It is that calm and patient. It grows such sweet things out of such corruptions." There is an awareness that we are all born in a violent past. We are all witness to a violent present. Yet still, we seek this peaceful time, this future. We must seek it. Sadako finished her 1,000 paper cranes, and now they've become an international symbol of peace. Just as all the ills of the world are bound together, so too are our measures of hope. The generosity that we give to the homeless, the empathy we give to people unlike ourselves, the care we give to the world as we struggle to curb climate change. Every time we affirm the dignity of people that society rejects, we attach another string to the hope of the world. Every morning that we wake up and commit once again to working for a peace bolstered by justice rather than convenience, this web of hope grows ever wider and ever stronger. Just like those ants eating the watermelon, and yes, they did eat it, our contribution to the world's goodwill will restore humanity. Amen. A few notices now before we sing our final hymn. If you're in need of pastoral care, please speak with me or write to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. Please do sign up or let me know if you're interested in volunteering. We're always grateful to have people who can greet, who can provide readings, assist with the IT, or help with the tea and coffee. Do we have anyone to help with the tea and coffee today? Thank you. Tea and coffee will be in the Percival Suite after the service. We're grateful for any donations that can assist the mission of our chapel. You can donate online at justgiving.com/crossstreetchapelmanchester, or you can email me about setting up a standing order. And if you're here in person, we have a retiring collection along with envelopes for gift aid if you are a UK taxpayer. And forget what noticeable here. There is the memorial service for that next. Thank you. So there's a memorial service, as I said, 12 o'clock today in Lincoln Square, which is near the town hall, to mark the bombing of Hiroshima. There is also on Wednesday at 12 o'clock in front of the Friends Meeting House, silent vigil to mark the bombing of Nagasaki, which happened several days later on the 9th. So that's Wednesday. Next Sunday, we have a very special anniversary for Laura and Ian, who mark their golden wedding anniversary. So please do let us know if you're able to join us for some cake and refreshments, so we can have an idea of numbers. And then finally, nearly finally, we have our Pride March is on the 26th. The chapel will be open from 10 o'clock. We aim to leave at 11 to make our way to Castlefield. Please do let us know if you're joining us. We want to make it the biggest, Pride March that we have yet. Particularly because this year's theme is Queerly Beloved, which recognizes a decade of marriage equality. And as I am always eager to point out, we were the first chapel in the UK that was licensed for same-sex civil partnerships when the law allowed that. We didn't quite get there for same-sex marriage. I believe we might have been the first in Greater Manchester for that privilege. But we have steadfastly sought to support in many ways our LGBTQ colleagues and friends and fellows. So please do join us in the march and let us know. And then the Sunday, the 27th, is our special Pride service. This year, we welcome Daria Fussell, who's going to talk about the experience of queer voices within music. And I'm sure we'll have sort of other elements as well. And then I think there's an announcement about the recital. Is that right? Yeah. Finally, we don't have a recital this month, but next month's recital is the 29th of September. It's the Leighton Trumpet Quartet. That's 1 p.m. Friday the 29th. Do join us for that. It's free, but we're grateful for any donations that assist in sort of provide for the time, talent, and energy of the performing artists. Are there any announcements that I have forgotten? Let us then sing our final hymn in the Purple Book, number 24, Carolyn McDade's Come Sing a Song With Me, hymn number 24. Thank you, Alex, for that. We close with the words of Joseph Cleveland. May we hear the melody of life and find ourselves singing harmony. May we be open to the dissonances in the song of land and its people, that we may be part of the world's urging towards justice, peace, and love. May we feel in our bones the rhythms of life and the land and find ourselves dancing. Amen.